We are back in the combat game again, and this time we're going to take a look at how to add a new collectible to the UI. So if we hit return to game up in the corner here, we can see that there's a UI thing at the top and at the bottom, and the one at the top is where the coin and the key is, and I think if we add a new collectible to the game, we should put it with the other collectibles, so we'll add it to that top bar. To do that, we're going to have to get a couple pieces of art ready. We're going to need a new version of this bar that's longer so that the new collectible will fit, and we're going to need an icon with this dark green behind it for showing the new collectible, and we're going to need the collectible itself. So if we fly over here and we hit stop, we'll notice that there's a section here in the work area for collectibles, and you'll see that there's a piece of art. If I hit play, you'll notice one of them kind of vanishes. One of them is the effect that plays when you get the collectible, and the other is the physical collectible in the world. But they both use the same art, so we'll need the piece of art that goes with this set, and then the pieces for the UI itself. So let's go make those now. Okay, so we've gone and we've made the new art pieces that we're going to need to initially hook up this UI. UI is a little bit tricky to work on because, as you can see, toolbars of the editor itself kind of end up over top of where your UI is. So the very first thing we're going to do is move the UI to where we can see it. So if you go to the UI controller and you open it up, you'll notice lots of duplicate scripts on here, and each of these is positioning like a piece of art or a little piece of text or a piece of the background, and they have a system where they can kind of parent to each other. So if you look at this one here, it says its element ID is bottom bar, and then the next one down says parent element ID is bottom bar. So that means that this one is always going to move with this one. That's what those IDs do. They kind of hook them together so you can move them around. That means to move our UI to where we can see it to work on it, we actually only need to find the parent of the whole thing. So I know that the top bar UI is down here near the bottom somewhere, so we're going to look. I think that's the one we want right there. So it's just called top bar. And right now the anchor for it is center top. So we want to instead say move it to center middle there. Now we can see it and we can work on it. And then when we're done, we can move it back to center top. The top bar doesn't have as many parts to it as the bottom bar, but there are a few objects here. This kind of pale background, there's the sort of key with the dark background, there's the piece of text, and there's this backdrop for the whole piece. So all of these we're going to need a version of. And I'm just doing this kind of before we set up the data, just to make sure that my art is okay, because we were just working on it. We're going to open that first one that's labeled top bar, and that should have a piece of art on it. Yeah, right here, combat top bar UI. So if we click on that, I just made a version that was longer. So we're going to go grab mine, and there you go. You can see I have that extra length now to put my new button. So the next thing we're going to want to do is get one of these like pale green backdrops. So we have to go find where that item is. That's a coin background, coin icon. Okay, it's probably this one. It's probably coin background. Since we can copy and paste, this is a good place to use that. If I just go copy and then I go paste as new, there you can see it pasted the new one right on top of the other one. So we want to move that new one that we just added. It's going to have added to the bottom of the list, which is fine. So if we opened it up, it says coin background, but we should rename it right away to bone background so that we can figure out what it is later. The value that moves it side to side is going to be probably this X coordinate. So let's just type a new number in here and see what we get. Yeah, that moves it over. But it looks like it needs to move over by quite a lot. So let's just put a big number in. Yeah, okay, that's pretty good. If we want it to be sort of even with the other ones, it looks like it needs to go over a little bit more, a little too far. That's probably close enough. We have our little backdrop. Now we need to put the bone icon that we just made. Let's go and find the coin one to use as an example. So that was the coin background, and then this was the actual coin icon. So we'll copy this one and we'll paste that as new. And if that worked, we're probably not really gonna see it because it looks identical to the art that's already there. We can just move it by something to see. Yeah, there. So now you can see that we made a duplicate thing. I'm not going to move it around a whole bunch though, because what I actually need to do is change its parent. So I'm just going to undo that move that I just made. And I'm going to make the parent of this one that background that we just made. So we're going to copy that and we'll paste that into its parent. Pasting it in there with those values automatically moved it to the right place because its position is now relative to that pale green thing. The next thing is we need to change the coin, right? We don't want it to be a coin. We want it to be the bone that we made. So let's go get that. There we go. Now we have a bone icon. That worked out pretty well, actually. I'm fairly happy with that. We can probably run with it for now. Obviously, you can fuss with your art and get everything just right, but for the sake of this tutorial, we'll say that's pretty good. The next thing that we're going to need is the text label, but the text label won't be able to work right now because we haven't set up the data for our game yet. Let's go start setting up some data. If you want to move this thing back out of the way so it's like not in our face while we're working here, we just got to go find the parent of it. So that was this one, and move its anchor back up to the top again. So if we just save our game and hit return to game now, there you can see that I have that bone amount up there. So let's stop the game and go and look at our collectibles. I tend to just duplicate an existing thing when I want to make more of something like that because I find that easier than putting all the scripts in. Whatever workflow works best for you. In my case, I'm just going to copy these two things and change their art and their names and stuff. So let's do that. And I didn't really show a video of me making the bone, but I just made a voxel object. Hopefully it's about the right size. Yeah, it's close enough. So we have the art we want on the two objects that we're going to need here, but we're going to need to make them their own templates. So we have to unlink them from the existing templates. And if you'll notice, this one just has a spinning script on it and a collectible script. The spinning script is just for visual polish, so it spins as it sits in the world. The collectible script, this data ID is going to hook to the database. So this is actually important. We need this one to say bone. We're going to have to change this to in a second here. We'll just leave that. We'll jump over to this one, and this one has a lot more scripts on it, but you don't actually need to change them unless you want to. This is going to play a coin collect sound, which you might want to change that to some other collect sound that's appropriate to the object that you're making. But most of this is just polish. This is a series of just visual things that play when you collect the item. We can leave that as it is for now. But the important thing we need to do right now is to rename it and template it. So we're going to call it collectible bone collected, and then we will copy it. We'll make it a new template, rename your template, and then hit save. Now we'll go back to that first one, to the collectible script, and where it says collection FX, we're actually just going to make the other bone that we just built. We're going to select that one. So there you go. So that otherwise when you collected this bone, you would visually see a coin pop up in the air, which is not what we want. So we've changed it to our bone one. Now we can double check the rest of this. This is like a formula used for the floating text stuff. We don't have to change any of that. So that should really be everything we have to do here, except for to name it and template it. So combat collectible bone will be the name we want this one to be. We'll make it a new template and hit save. Now we need to add it to our collectible database. On the collectible database is a thing called collectible data. You'll need one for each collectible in your game. The potion has its own special data type because it needed some extra information with it to be able to heal the player, but we just need a regular collectible for what we're doing right now, so we can just copy any of these and just hit paste as new. As always, the script's going to end up pasted at the bottom. Rename it bone. Its display name can also be bone. These icons and stuff aren't used in this system the way we're using it. They're needed for some stuff in Doodle Safari, but we don't need them here at the moment. So we do need to change this to the collectible template though. So we'll put that there. And we shouldn't need to change anything else except for maybe the max ownable. I don't know if anyone needs to own 9,999 bones. That seems a bit much. So maybe we'll just change that to 99, and that will be the most bones that a person can have. Let's save. Remember to save periodically when you're doing this stuff. And then we're going to go back to working on our UI again. And this time we need to find a label, because it's a label that's going to put the number of the bones that you own onto that top HUD. So we were copying from the coin, so we can just try to find the coin one again. So that's the coin background. The coin label is probably just below it. Yeah, there's coin amount. So let's copy this. Paste as new is now going to stick to the bottom, and we're going to change this to be bone amount. Oops, I never renamed that one. Okay, so bone amount, and we want the parent to be the bone icon that we made. The reason we had to go make the data first is because this formula is using the ID here. So instead of the word coin, we need it to be the word bone. Okay, let's just take a peek and see if that worked out. Yes, okay, so we have 0 bones, which is correct. We do not own any bones. In the next video, I will show you how to actually make the bones drop in the game so that your player can get them. We'll add them to the bone piles, and we'll also make them maybe drop off skeletons.